Okay, this is Mary Erin Casal. Thanks again for joining us. Welcome to our Maine Clean Car Standards virtual press conference, focusing on public health and saving money, Mainers' money at the pump. Our event features Representative Lori Gramlich from District 131, who is the House Chair of the Environment and Natural Resources Committee, and who will be jumping off at the end of her remarks to get back to that committee. We've also got Adam Lee, who is the chairman of the board at Lee Auto Malls, Kathleen Neal, the director of policy and partnerships from the Maine Conservation Voters. And then we'll also have Dr. Rebecca Boulos, who is the executive director of the Maine Public Health Association. We are just experiencing a few tech issues with her, so we're going to get her a new Zoom link, so you'll see her jump on shortly. Once again, I want to thank the Maine Conservation Voters for sponsoring today's event. Our speakers have come together to encourage the Biden administration and the Environmental Protection Agency to quickly introduce a new round of stronger clean car standards for model years 2027 and beyond. For our agenda, we'll have 2 to 3 minutes of formal remarks from each of our speakers, who will be visible and audible via their audio. As you can see, they'll all unmute themselves. And then at the end of the formal remarks, we will have a brief session for questions related to today's event. I am now honored to introduce Representative Lori Gramlich, as I said, the House Chair of the Environment and Natural Resources Committee. Representative, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mary Erin, and thank you everybody for being here. And particularly, I want to extend my gratitude to Maine Conservation Voters for shepherding this opportunity to speak. So I am Lori Gramlich, and I proudly represent the lovely seaside community of Old Orchard Beach in the Maine State Legislature, and am pleased to be appointed as the House Chair of our Environment and Natural Resources Committee. We've known a long time in Maine, and Mainers know best, that our assets, our best assets, are our people, our natural resources, and our ability of, our quality of life and place. These are exactly the things that move our economy forward. And it's why Maine has always been a leader when it comes to protecting these resources. Whether it be through our landmark Clean Air and Waters Acts from our very own Ed Muskie, or our recent enactment of the nation's most ambitious targets for transitioning to renewable energy and reducing greenhouse gas emission, like our motto, Dirigo, Maine Leads. And we're here today as leaders to call on the Environmental Protection Agency and President Biden's administration to introduce the next round of clean car standards to cut pollution from vehicles and protect our public health. Implementing these standards this March of 2023, will make good on the Biden administration's promises to put in place the strongest possible standards for model years 2027 and onward, and drive investments in clean cars and zero pollution electric vehicles, as well as saving Mainers money at the pump. And that's critically important. You'll hear from Adam Lee shortly about the history of these standards, but please allow me to just give you a little bit of background. Federal clean car standards managed by the United States Environmental Protection Agency require automakers to address and reduce tailpipe emissions from passenger vehicles by establishing yearly reductions in climate change causing pollutants such as CO2. These standards typically operate in tandem with the Cooperative Average Fuel Economy, otherwise known as CAFE standards, led by the U.S. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, which regulates how far a passenger vehicle must go on a single gallon of fuel. The transportation sector currently is the leading domestic source of the carbon pollution driving climate change. We just had a briefing, as a matter of fact, in the Environmental Committee that nearly 50% of emissions come from the transportation sector. And we know tailpipe pollution from vehicles contributes to air pollution and contributes to respiratory illnesses. Strong federal clean car standards that address passenger tailpipe emissions are a critical way to reduce total transportation sector emissions and to help achieve the United States goal of a 50 to 52% emissions reduction by 2030 and a net zero by 2050. Now the Biden administration has taken strong steps to strengthen clean air and truck standards, and they deserve credit for restoring Obama-Biden era clean car standards of December 2021. These stronger standards require car manufacturers to reduce tailpipe emissions for automobiles and light trucks for model years 2023 through 2026. President Biden also signed an executive order just last year in August of 2021 to get more electric vehicles on the road and help address the climate crisis. In August 2022, President Biden signed the Inflation Reduction Act that provides incentives to consumers and manufacturers to buy and produce electric vehicles. But we need more action, and we certainly need to look beyond 2026. The time for predictability for manufacturers and for Mainers is now. We know that Mainers rely on their vehicles to get to work, to get to school, to explore and adventure, everything that we love in the state of Maine. We are a driving state. And when prices at the pump go up, we all feel it, and we feel it swiftly. The strongest possible clean car standards are essential for consumer savings and protections. In addition to saving drivers money at the gas station, stronger standards will spur innovation, leading to more affordable electric and zero pollution vehicles, lower transportation costs for families, and cleaner air and a better climate. All major automakers have committed to building zero emitting vehicles and are making major investments. But until those vehicles are affordable and we have the infrastructure to handle them, we need vehicles with better gas mileage and lower emissions. That's why we are moving swiftly to a new round of EPA vehicle pollution limits. We believe is a win-win for the state of Maine. I really thank everybody for being here today. I will look forward to hearing more about this later on today when I'm able to log back in. And any questions that any folks have for me, I'll encourage you to communicate that with Mary Aaron. And thank you for your time. And I'm gonna need to bow out.
Thanks so much, Representative Gramlich. I really appreciate it. I am now going to hand the floor over to Adam Lee. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, Mary Aaron. Good morning. My name's Adam Lee. I am chairman of Lee Auto Malls, located throughout Maine. I am a third-generation car dealer. I want to give you just a real brief history. In 1975, Congress passed the first corporate average fuel economy standards. So the law called for doubling of passenger vehicle efficiency in just 10 years. The target was 27.5 miles. So at that time, cars were averaging about 13 miles per gallon. From 85 until 07, 22 years, the standards didn't change. They were just stuck at 27.5 miles per gallon. In 07, there was a new legislation passed mandating that cars achieve 35 miles per gallon by 2020, and they did. The current standard says new cars and trucks need to get 49 miles per gallon by 2026. And with the advent of all the improvements with gas-powered cars and hybrids and plug-ins and electric cars, I'm sure they'll hit that target. We're here today to impress upon the Biden administration and Congress to implement new standards starting in 2027 when the current ones expire. Now, I grew up in the car business, and I've been working with various manufacturers for 35 years. And there's one thing I can tell you with 100% confidence. There has rarely been a single improvement to safety, fuel economy, or emission standards of cars and trucks that hasn't been mandated by Congress, the EPA, or NHTSA. Seatbelts, unleaded gasoline, anti-lock brakes, and a variety of other crucial improvements are in your car today because of the rules requiring it. I've listened to various auto manufacturers claim that if they were required to put in anti-lock brakes or airbags, they'd go broke. Or if they were required to hit certain mile per gallon targets, cars would be too expensive and people wouldn't pay for them. Well, earlier this year, our Toyota dealership had to stop taking deposits on the RAV4 plug-in hybrid because we had an 8-month waiting list. And these were all sold at sticker price. This is sort of a car dealer's dream. Without going into too much detail, this mid-sized all-wheel drive SUV gets a combined fuel economy of 94 miles per gallon. So the next time you hear a manufacturer tell you the standards can't be achieved, what they're really saying is they don't want to, because it's being done today. We now have a dozen old-fashioned gasoline-powered cars that get between 50 in 60 miles per gallon. And I'm not talking about plug-ins or electric cars, just good old-fashioned gas-powered cars. Combine that with the exciting electric cars, plug-in hybrids that are all arriving daily, and I think we should be shooting for the highest standards possible. Thank you very much.
Adam, thanks so much. I'm going to hand it over to Kathleen now.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us. My name is Kathleen Neal. I am the Senior Director of Policy and Partnerships for Maine Conservation Voters and Maine Conservation Alliance. Our organizations represent more than 13,000 members and supporters dedicated to protecting Maine's environment and our democracy. MCA does that through education, collaboration, and advocacy, and MCV by influencing public policy, holding politicians accountable, and winning elections. The through line for all of our work is our deep love for this place and for the people and communities that call Maine home. Climate change threatens all of us. From increasing land and ocean temperatures to rising sea levels, more frequent and severe storms, and more prevalent health risks, Maine is seeing the results of a rapidly changing climate. In turn, these changing conditions are affecting every sector of our economy, from tourism, agriculture, and forestry to transportation and trade. That's why just over 4 years ago, the Maine Climate Council and its 6 sector-specific working groups, along with hundreds of Maine people, came together to develop a groundbreaking climate action plan. Grounded in science and community, Maine won't wait set bold, ambitious goals to reduce emissions, prepare for climate change impacts, and strengthen Maine communities. Recognizing that transportation is responsible for more than half of Maine's climate changing pollution, and that cars and light-duty trucks are responsible for nearly 60% of those emissions, Maine Won't Wait called for development of a clean transportation roadmap to identify the policies and programs and regulatory changes that we need to reduce the carbon pollution driving climate change. With this work, Maine has set bold targets for transitioning to pollution-free vehicles, investing in clean transportation infrastructure, and reducing the transportation pollution that's adding to the climate crisis. Halfway through our 4-year climate action plan, we have made strong progress, dramatically increasing the number of electric vehicles on the road, the availability of public EV chargers, and the opportunity to reduce vehicle miles traveled through increased access to broadband, public transit, and safe routes for biking and walking. But Maine cannot do this work alone. We need our federal partners in the Environmental Protection Agency and the Biden administration to support our state progress by setting strong, nationally consistent clean car standards for all cars and light-duty trucks. President Biden took an excellent first step in restoring the Obama-Biden era clean car standards back in December of 2021. These stronger standards require manufacturers to reduce emissions for automobiles and light trucks for model years 2023 through 2026. In August of 2021, President Biden signed an executive order to get more electric vehicles on the road. And in August of 2022, President Biden signed the Inflation Reduction Act, the biggest climate action piece of legislation in history. And that provides incredible incentives to consumers and manufacturers to buy and produce electric vehicles. Now, the Biden administration must move quickly to strengthen fuel economy and carbon pollution standards for cars and light-duty trucks produced from 2027 onward. These strong, nationally consistent clean car standards are essential to cutting climate-changing pollution, and they must be implemented this March to ensure our uninterrupted progress towards these must-reach climate goals. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kathleen. And now we're going to hear from Dr. Boulos to get the public health perspective on why this matters to Mainers.
Good morning, and thank you for being here. My name is Becca Bolas, and I am Executive Director of Maine Public Health Association, which represents more than 700 public health professionals across the state. Public health professionals are committed to improving the factors that control our health, such as clean water and clean air. I am here today in support of strengthening the clean car standards, which have been widely supported by automakers, unions, national security groups, public health practitioners, and environmentalists. As a result of the clean car standards, automobile fuel efficiency has dramatically improved, reducing the impact of oil use and bettering public and environmental health. Burning gasoline releases greenhouse gases that worsen air quality and contribute to climate change. In Maine, we are in the unfortunate position of importing most of our air pollution from other states due to wind direction and geography. This pollution hurts our air quality, which can increase the incidence and prevalence of respiratory illnesses, including asthma. These health risks cannot be emphasized enough. According to the American Lung Association's 2022 State of the Air report, across Maine, there are almost 20,000 children and more than 116,000 adults that suffer from asthma. If we really want to protect our kids and adults from vehicle pollution, we need to make the transition to cleaner and zero pollution vehicles, and the next round of clean car standards will help make that transition possible. Stronger clean car standards and investments in EVs will help communities fight climate change. EVs produce zero tailpipe pollution and protect our health and Maine families' budgets. Indeed, while electric vehicles have a higher upfront cost than fossil fuel cars, a recent World Bank report indicates they are less expensive to run and maintain. The lower maintenance costs alone can amount to $5,000 in savings over the life of the vehicle. Stronger standards will also help protect the health of underserved and marginalized populations, which tend to be disproportionately impacted by air pollution, including from the health effects associated with poor air quality. These populations also tend to lack access to preventive health care and treatment services and to live in proximity to high pollution areas, including highways. By investing in cleaner cars and reducing harmful pollution, we are investing in Maine people, ensuring our most vulnerable populations, including our children, have cleaner air. Maine people value our state's natural beauty, and part of that natural beauty includes clean air. Without stronger clean car standards and bold investments in cleaner cars, we will continue to pollute the air and harm our health. Therefore, today, we are calling on the United States Environmental Protection Agency and President Joe Biden's administration to introduce the next round of clean car standards to reduce vehicle pollution and protect public health. Implementing these standards this March will make good on the Biden administration's promises to put in place the strongest possible standards for model years 2027 onward, drive investments in clean cars and zero pollution EVs, and save Mainers money at the pump. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bolos, and thank you, Adam and Kathleen. That is the end of our formal remarks portion of the event. We now have a few minutes for questions related to today's event. For members of the media, if you have a question related to our event topic, you can use the raise your hand function, which I think we're all pretty familiar with now at this point, to indicate a question, or you can also type that you have a question into the chat box. We'll work through those question requests one at a time and unmute your line so you can ask the speaker your question. But before getting to your question, please state your name, the media outlet that you work for, and if you have a specific panelist that you are directing your question to. Looking in that chat box. Okay, it looks like we have Katie Sharp, and you can unmute yourself.
Hey there, this is Katie Sharp. I'm actually with WABI up in Bangor, and this is really for anybody who really has any remarks on it. I know that one of the things that's being requested and trying to be pushed for is being able to purchase new electric vehicles, but do you think that there's really any request or any attention towards converting old vehicles? Like, we have plenty of old vehicles, and I know that there are certain people that prefer a certain type of vehicle or a certain year. Do you think that it might be worth considering to have a push for helping people actually converting vehicles that are combustible vehicles into electric vehicles?
Mary Aaron, I have a comment on this. Katie, there are, or Katie, there are companies that do this now. It's wildly expensive. It's significantly more expensive than just buying an electric vehicle. It would be nice if the manufacturers would come out with some sort of vintage older cars that were electric. People would like that, but it's really, really expensive to retrofit, unless you do, are a backyard mechanic and can do it yourself.
Gotcha. Thank you. Yeah, that's something that, because I knew that it's actually been available, I figure, for actually a while. I remember back when I was in college a million years ago, first hearing about it, that there was the capability to do that. But yeah, as a normal Joe Schmo off the street, I'm like, oh, I could probably just take whatever car I want and get it converted. But I had wondered about the cost and even the availability of certain models for cars and everything like that. If it really is an attainable thing for anybody who is interested.
Yeah. It's expensive.
Gotcha. Thank you.
This is why I'm so grateful to have Adam and your expertise to answer questions like that. But Katie, I'll just add as well that, you mentioned people want a particular kind of vehicle. We're used to being able to choose what's the best kind of vehicle for my life and my driving. And that's exactly why we need strong, nationally consistent standards for all cars and light duty vehicles, because you should be able to make that choice within a bound of clean cars.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kathleen. That's all I had.
Thanks so much. I see one question that we've got here in the chat box from Penelope Overton from the Portland Press Herald. Adam, this is a question for you. I had a feeling that you would get a lot of the questions today. Penelope wanted to know if you could talk about prices of new cars with those higher CAFE standards that you were mentioning, and just knowing if the average Maine household, which earns $63,000 a year, could afford cars with higher standards.
Well, it's a good question, and it's a very reasonable question. The average price of a new car today in America is about $46,000. Nobody can afford new cars. This is a problem. There are hybrids, plug-in electrics, and just good old-fashioned small cars with small engines that get good fuel economy that are in the $30,000 range. One of the challenges is, 2 years ago, when rates were 1 or 2%, a payment might be $350 or $400 a month. Today, that same car could be $500 or $600. So interest rates have hurt tremendously. They'll come back down. I think there's no magic to it. Cars keep getting more expensive, and it's not just about the fuel economy. It's that they have so much tech in them now, and so big screens and Bluetooth and fancy stereos, and everybody's got heated seats. The days when we had inexpensive cars that got reasonable fuel economy seem to be gone. So I think it's unrealistic to think that manufacturers are going to start making stripped down versions of cars that are more affordable, but they should. But it's not about the more efficient engine that's causing the price to go up so much. It's many other factors. And the other thing is, they're much better cars today than when we were younger. Cars weren't so good. There were some were much better than others. They're all very good, whether it's a Hyundai or a Ford or a Toyota or a Chevy, and they last much longer and they break less. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but there are a lot of factors that go into it, most of which aren't related to the fuel economy of the vehicle.
So it seems like on that note, the increased fuel economy is actually saving consumers money that they would otherwise be spending on the pump, given that the cost of the car is going to go up either way.
Yeah, I mean, certainly a car that gets 50 miles per gallon, it's going to cost a heck of a lot less to drive than one that gets 30. And, you know, in gas, listen, we watch gasoline go from $2 to $5 to $3 to $4. It fluctuates. So you hedge your bets and get something that's good on gas.
Thanks so much. We have one more question. It's from Sean Murphy. He has his hand up, but I don't see it in the chat box. Looks like, oh, there he is. Okay, Sean, if you go ahead and unmute yourself, this will be our last question. Thanks so much.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry about that. It's Sean Murphy. I'm with Spectrum News. Thanks for the time today. Just had one quick question first for Adam Lee. Just kind of piggybacking on the previous question, independent of price, are you concerned at all about any kind of other disruptions that might happen as a result of these new regulations? I mean, you said yourself that manufacturers never seem to be particularly jazzed about this sort of thing. Are you worried about there maybe being fewer vehicles available or anything like that?
No, I'm not. I've watched these battles go back and forth for the last 35 years. And what usually happens is labor, so the unions, the manufacturers, and the environmental community, they end up working together and developing something they can all agree on, because it's more expensive for them to fight than compromise a little bit. And this is what happened last time around. They all agreed. And this is labor, the manufacturers, and the environmental community agreed on the last set of standards. And they all said, we can live with this. You know, we won't sue you. You don't sue us. Let's keep moving forward. And one of the things they want is predictability. They just need to know, what are they going to have to do 5 years from now, 10 years from now? So the answer to the question is, I really don't think so. And what always happens is, the day after they sign these agreements, the manufacturers are on TV. You would think it was their idea. They're on talking about what great vehicles they have coming with great fuel economy. So that they'll figure it out, and they'll make as many as they can, because they all want to outsell the other guy.
Okay. Thank you for that. I just one last question, please, for Dr. Boulos. I just wanted to ask, you mentioned the American Lung Association and such, but is there any other data in Maine that speaks to the relationship between air quality and public health?
I know that not all 16 counties have air quality air monitors in them. And so one of the things that we've been working on is trying to figure out how we can have more of those across the state, so we can capture air quality in especially rural areas. There's been a lot of work done at Maine CDC on pollen and other things that can aggravate respiratory illness. But I think that that's an area where we can really continue to improve in our efforts. So thank you for that question.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you again. Those were excellent questions. I want to again thank all of our speakers for their time and their continued support in calling on the Biden administration and the EPA to quickly move to enact these stronger clean car standards. Thanks again to our event hosts, Maine Conservation Voters, for sponsoring our event, and thanks to all the members of the media for joining us. Just a quick reminder that the video recording of this event is going to be available on the Maine Conservation Voters Facebook page. A link to that video will be sent out in the press release in the next hour or so. And if you have any follow-up questions or requests for our speaker interviews, you can connect with me, again, Mary Erin Casal, and my contact information is on the press advisory and press release, and I will also drop it in that chat box. Thank you. Thanks again, and have a great day.
Thank you all.